What's going on, guys? Welcome back to NolanTCG, and we are back here today for another deck profile, and today it's for Paleo, but it is Paleo with a twist. So we've decided to, rather, because we were inspired by the OCG list that was that weird Cyburst Paleo Eldlich list. We're not fully going that way, so we're not going to be playing like Eldlich in this. So we're not going to be playing Cyburst in this. We are playing Eldlich in this, of course. But this is essentially Paleo Eldlich. I've wanted to mess around with this for a little bit, and we've decided to put it together and see how it goes. Overall, deck's super consistent. The only thing I don't like about including the Eldlich lineup into it is it does limit the amount of power traps you can play in the deck, which I don't quite like. But overall, the deck's still great. I still love playing frogs, and overall, you're summoning frogs, so that's really all that matters. But before we do get started, as always, please remember to drop down below and hit that subscribe button if you are new here, because we are always happy to have new people on the channel. And let's get on into the deck profile. Okay, so starting us off, we have the main deck, and of course, it is 3 copies of Swap Frog, the nice ultimate rare boys, all can always come into work. Opening one of these guys, of course, is the best opening you can get, given that you don't primarily have a normal summon in this deck. If you open up Swap Frog plus another frog, hopefully you're ending on a Toad with 4 back row set. If that's no, that's not correct. It's 3 back row set. Otherwise, you've opened 6 cards. At which point you're cheating. You should probably concede the match at that point. Next off after that, we have, of course, 3 copies of Professor Frog, because he grants us plays. Then we have 2 copies of Ronan Toden, because he helps us recur everything. Then for our Golden Lords, we are playing just 2 copies of Eldlich the Golden Lord. There's no real need to play 3 in this list. Overall, if you have them both be crowed, feels bad, I know, but overall, you're just playing 2, that's fine. You don't need to play more. My locals is heavy on Invoked, so this could probably backfire on me. After this, we've got, of course, 3 copies of Cursed Eldland. We are playing only 6 spells in the main deck of this, so you can consider side decking things like Imperial Order if you wish to do that. But yeah, 3 copies of Cursed Eldland because it searches pretty much everything on your Eldlich side of things. After that, we're playing 3 copies of the new card in Pot of Prosperity. Gives you so much more access to your extra deck, being able to pick and choose what you're going to banish over just having them blindly go off Extravagance. It does do the half damage, but you're playing a grind deck, so this doesn't really matter. For our Paleo lineup, we are playing, of course, 3 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus. Banish also recurs, good card. 3 copies of Book of Moon, because it stops Link summoning, which is really, really good for things like Dragon Link at the moment. If you can just book that normal summon, hopefully that's enough to stall them out. You might need a second recursion if they have some extenders, but the Book of Moon should hopefully do a bit of work. After that, we've got 3 copies of Paleozoic Olenoides. If only this card was a super rare, life would be good. At the moment, though, there is a lot of back row kind of floating around in the format, so that is something you can take into mind. Being able to snipe off things as well. If you're going first, you can set it down. Again, Dragon Link, if they activate their their boot sector, you can just pop it. Hopefully that stops you from having to face down a Savage. Hopefully they haven't gotten that far though, because you're playing a control deck, and if you're doing your job properly, they shouldn't have gotten that far. And that's it for our Paleo lineup though. You can consider playing Morella in this list, because it just can Foolish Bury all your Eldritch traps and give you a lot more versatility. Overall, I couldn't find space in the list, because I did want to end up playing things that will come later in the list. So next off though, we do have the Eldlich list, and it is 3 copies of Scarlet Sanguine to give you access to those Golden Lords. Yeah, it hurts that you're only playing 2 Golden Lord in your main deck, and you're going to end up having to reborn with this. But overall, doesn't really matter. You can just set this and then send it with Golden Lord to bring him back, which is always fine. Then we've got 3 copies of Conch. We are then playing 2 copies of Haquero. I feel as though just the pop is more impactful at the moment. Being able to clear off resources that go into Link Climb plays is probably the better way to go. The Haquero, though, can come in clutch, getting you those key banishes. Next off, though, we do get into more of the flex spots, so you can change these traps up to anything you'd like. We're playing 3 copies of Trap Trick, just because it gives you access to your Paleo lines, as well as the other 4 cards that are coming in the main deck. Technically not all 4, because 2 of them are counter traps, of course. It's Solemn Strike, and that's what's coming up next. It's 2 copies of Solemn Strike. You can't set this off Trap Trick, of course, which is kind of rough, but it's just so much of a power card at the moment that you kind of have to main deck Strike. Then, of course, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence round out the main deck, like always. This card is kind of important to be playing, because you really, really, really want to stop that Verte if you're going second, because it can make your life pretty hard. Okay, next off we've got the extra deck, and of course it is 3 copies of Totally Awesome. They are finally all first ed. I'm no longer playing some unlims. Big thank you to, I can't remember how I got it. I think it was Glenn. I bought Glenn stuff, and he had one in there. So, big thank you. Can finally play 3 copies of Totally Awesome in first edition. Because we are playing a Prosperity build, we don't have to be playing like wild lineups of our Paleozoic, or all of our Xyz really. So we're playing 1 copy of Ophibinia, 1 copy of Anomalocaris. It's all you really need. Really just the Anomalocaris is in there if you want to try and control out. Ophibinia is in here if you want to be searching some trap cards. We do, of course, have 1 copy of Skycav next. This card can help you out Dragoon, which is always important in this deck. You do really need Dragoon out, since it's one of them. Then, of course, we do have our big train packages, though. We have 1 copy of Gustav and 1 copy of Juggernaut Lieb for our Golden Lords. Slap these guys down on the field, hopefully you're having a good time. Something to keep in mind is that you can't summon these if you are activating your Scarlet Sanguines on your turn, so you can't like have one on board, Scarlet Sanguine to another, and go into a Gustav. Doesn't work like that. That locks you into zombies. Then we have, of course, 1 copy of Pallades, which we can use to summon off with our trap cards. They get rank 5s, they can go into a Pallades. Pallades can get you some bounces, which is always good. Then we have, of course, 1 AA Zeus. If you're in a lot of trouble and you don't have a lot of resources on board, hopefully you can just slap down a Zeus, attack, win. After that, though, we do get into some links. So we are playing 1 copy of Link Spider. This is just for turning your Eldlich traps into an effect monster if you do need to get through and do that if you're going for an access code play. 1 copy of Coral Anemone. This card's not super useful. You can probably consider switching this for the Water Charmer if you do want to do that. I would probably recommend it just because that can help you out. If your locals is playing a lot of like Hulk running around, the Water Charmer can like bring that to your side of the field, get you into access code, and hopefully win the game. Then next off, we've got 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix and 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. Unicorn's for transitioning when you're going through to your access code talker. Nightmare Unicorn's just there to deal with some pesky back row. And then, of course, 1 copy of access code rounds out the extra deck. But that wraps us up here for the deck profile for this one. So as always, if you do have any recommendations or things you would change, do make sure to comment those ones down below. Overall, I couldn't bring myself to include the Cyburst lineup into this just because I felt as though it took a little bit too much away from the deck, and you'd probably, to make it work, have to play more than 40 cards, which is something that I didn't want to do with this. It is something you can consider, though, if you do want to run that. That's in the OCG recap video that was a few days ago. But yeah, overall, I really enjoy the deck. I could consider bumping it to 45 without that gadget pack, or without the Cyburst gadget package, though, just to give you a little bit more space for flex traps. Also, possibly consider cutting maybe Trap Trick if you do want to go that line. But, as always, I've been Ben from NolanTCG, and have a good afternoon, everybody.